A listener note, this story contains adult content and language. If you're listening to this podcast, you might want to go back and start at episode 1. This is a story being told in chronological order. Therefore, if you come in at episode 2, you might miss some details or context that are pretty important to the story. From Exclave Media, this is The Sicario Effect.
Se busca a Pablo Escobar. Recompensa 2,700.
Con John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez. ¿Usted por qué se entrega de nuevo a la justicia?
Porque no le debo nada a la...
A Colombian hired killer known as Popeye has been released from prison.
Hola guerreras y guerreros, yo soy su amigo John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez, conocido como Popeye.
Alias Popeye, mi señor.
Yo soy John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez Popeye,
Episode 12. Surprise Party.
En la finca del Peñol, en Antioquia, donde fue capturado Juan Carlos Mesa, alias Tom, también estaba John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez, alias Popeye.
The alleged ringleader of Colombia's largest drug cartel.
Al momento de la captura de Juan Carlos Mesa, alias Tom, por narcotráfico, y el ex jefe de sicarios de Pablo Escobar, John Jairo Velázquez, alias Popeye. John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez, alias Popeye.
In Colombia today, authorities announced the capture and arrest of Juan Carlos Mesa. In addition to arresting Mesa, police detained John Jairo Velázquez, better known as Popeye.
Presencia de alias Popeye en ese lugar, que alias Tom tenía en su poder una cédula falsa. Por eso también abrirán una investigación.
Okay, I want to go back to the beginning. I got back to Los Angeles shortly before Thanksgiving. I was still trying to process everything. It was an intense experience. Popeye's admiration for Pablo Escobar, along with his sense of pride in his voice when he talks about the many people he killed or operations he carried out that inflicted profound damage on the country, it's a strange thing to hear in a place where so many suffered. A lot of Colombians are offended in just being associated with the memory of Pablo Escobar. And yet, as outrageous as that is, you also get the sense they're very pessimistic about this association changing anytime soon. The elephant in the room isn't going anywhere. As we tried to figure everything out, here's a conversation I had with my producer, Matt. It was recorded on December 1st, 2017. Popeye was fascinating to me, and I was fascinated by the idea that, like, he had become this sort of celebrity, and yet it was like nothing I'd ever seen before.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's the other question of how does a guy who killed 300 people become so celebrated? Going off what you're telling me right now, that to me is where it started. That's where your thought process immediately, that's where everything blossomed from. It's why is this guy celebrated?
December 9th, 2017. It was a Saturday. I was at home in LA. I'd gotten up early because I had some errands to run. The first of those brought me to Lowe's, the hardware store. This is not an ad for Lowe's. Anyway, so I'm in Lowe's and I'm walking through the aisle and I get a text message from Alejandro. He texted me an article with a headline, En rumba con Popeye capturan a Tom, el narco más buscando en el mundo. It translates to, at a party with Popeye, Tom, the most wanted narco in the world, is captured. I immediately replied to Alejandro, Whoa, explain this to me. He writes back, he went to a party with some very heavy guys. These aren't just wannabe gangsters. These are real heavy narcos. The first thing that went through my mind was, that violates his parole. I raced back home to get on my computer. I wanted a clear understanding of what actually happened. I went through all the news stories I could find. Here's what happened. There's a small town called El Peñol. It's roughly an hour outside of Medellin. It's kind of a quiet, rural area, a lot of ranches, stuff like that. In El Peñol, there's also a small boutique resort hotel there called La Casona de la Caso. The entire hotel had been rented out that Saturday night for a private birthday party. Not long after midnight, while the party was still in full swing, the Colombian Special Forces swooped in and raided the party. The target of the raid was the party's guest of honor, the man whose birthday everyone had come to celebrate, Juan Carlos Mesa, alias Tom. I'm not making that up. That is literally his alias Tom. Juan Carlos Mesa was, at that moment, alleged to be the biggest narco trafficker in all of Colombia. This wasn't some up-and-coming narco guy or mid-level guy. No, up until that evening, the capture of Juan Carlos Mesa was the biggest priority for Colombian law enforcement. Alias Tom was the head of what is called La Oficina de Envigado. In English, it translates to the Envigado office. Before we go any further, I want to tell you about La Oficina. La Oficina got its name because it was an actual office located in the Envigado City Hall. Around the late 70s, Envigado's mayor established a department to monitor and combat crime within Envigado. It was called the Department of Security and Control, Departamento de Seguridad y Control. Eventually, it became known as La Oficina de Envigado. Ironically, as Pablo's power grew, the office did anything but fight crime. As throughout most of his life, Pablo offered the mayor plata o plomo. Guess which one he took? The mayor gave in to El Patron. So it was no surprise when Pablo started using the office as a branch of his own enterprise. The purpose of the office was to collect debts. It provided associates of the Medellin cartel a place where they could go to pay Pablo his share of profits. It also developed close links to several big gangs in Medellin. When necessary, La Oficina employed those gangs as muscle. If you didn't pay, it was likely you'd be paid a visit by a member of La Terraza, one of the most feared gangs in Medellin. As time went on, La Oficina would become a permanent fixture in the criminal world of Medellin. In 1991, when Pablo went to prison at La Catedral, he put his associate, Fernando Galeano, in charge of La Oficina. Galeano had a bodyguard named Diego Murillo Bejarano, who would later become known as Don Berna. Originally a soldier with the leftist guerrilla group, the ELN, Don Berna left the guerrillas and ended up working for Fernando Galeano. He eventually became Galeano's right hand. After Pablo accused Galeano and his partner, Gerardo Kiko Moncada, of stealing, he summoned the two men to a meeting at La Catedral, where they were both executed. Popeye personally carried out the murder of Galeano. After Galeano's murder, Don Berna deserted the Medellin cartel and joined forces with the Cali cartel and Los Pepes, the paramilitary group created to hunt down and kill Pablo Escobar. If history has taught us one thing, it's that you can get Ali Baba, but there will still be the 40 thieves left behind. After the death of Pablo and the collapse of the Medellin cartel in 1994, Don Berna, who had learned all the routes and knew all the players, picked up where Pablo left off. In fact, he ran it more efficiently than Pablo. Many of the direct and indirect associates of the cartel realigned themselves with paramilitary groups. Don Berna had developed an alliance with the Castaño brothers, Fidel, Carlos, and Vicente. The Castaño brothers were largely responsible for founding perhaps the most violent and bloodthirsty paramilitary group in modern Colombian history. They founded the Autodefensas Unidas de Colombia, or AUC for short. In Spanish, it means the United Self-Defense Forces of Colombia. Don Berna realigned La Oficina with the AUC, and with their backing, he ramped up smuggling operations across the country. In return, the AUC was able to fund their operations with the profits from cocaine smuggling. It worked well. In 2005, the Colombian government managed to break up the AUC and put Don Berna behind bars for the murder of a local politician. He had a pretty good run. Don Berna was eventually extradited to the U.S. in 2008, along with some other paramilitary leaders. Over the next few years, La Oficina would become riddled with constant power struggles between opposing factions. Eventually, a former sicario named Erickson Vargas Cardona, alias Sebastian, took over. Yeah, that's his alias. Anyway, in 2012, Sebastian was arrested by Colombian authorities for murder. In 2016, he too was extradited to the U.S. In 2012, Juan Carlos Mesa, alias Tom, took control of La Oficina. Now back to the party. A few things worth noting. It wasn't just Tom that the police arrested. There were about 15 other suspected members or associates of La Oficina at the party who were detained. There was also another guest who was detained. In case you hadn't guessed it already, it was Popeye, right there in the middle of it all. The police, who conducted the raid, seized about 96 million pesos, or roughly $15,000. In addition to the cash, they also confiscated a pistol with a gold-plated hand grip, which alias Tom was carrying at the time, as well as several high-end vehicles and a new speedboat on a trailer. Presumably the boat was a gift for Tom. Popeye's attendance at alias Tom's birthday was a big deal. It suggested a lot of things. Why? Because Juan Carlos Mesa's name was on something called the Clinton List. It was created in 1995 by the Treasury Department. The list is a tool used in the fight against narco-trafficking and money laundering. It's basically a blacklist of sorts, comprised of wanted narco-traffickers, terrorists, and individuals with ties to cartels or money laundering outfits. In 2014, alias Tom was placed on the list, citing him as the leader of La Oficina. This action instantly made Juan Carlos Mesa a prime candidate for extradition to the United States. In addition to being on the radar of U.S. law enforcement, Tom was also wanted in Colombia for conspiracy to commit aggravated murder. By 5 p.m. on Saturday, I was glued to my computer, researching anything I could find regarding Popeye's presence at the party, when I got a second text message from Alejandro. "This is serious. He might go back to prison," his message read. I spent the next several hours going through everything I could find, and the thing that struck me is, well, I can't think of a better word for it other than crazy. Think about it for a second. Regardless of whatever you think about Popeye, here's a guy who's out of jail. He's a free man who, under many systems throughout the world, would never see the light of day, no matter how much his testimony helped convict others. If there was one thing that Popeye said, which I believed he was genuinely telling the truth, was that he cherished his freedom. And so I thought to myself, something that could directly jeopardize this freedom you cherish. This is what struck me as the strangest thing about the whole story. It was almost incomprehensible. I didn't ask Popeye about his personal finances, but I'm pretty sure he was making decent money from his YouTube videos, his channel, his books, selling his rights for a TV series. Maybe it wasn't Pablo money, but by my estimation, a decent living that he seemed to enjoy greatly. Now, I know some of you will say I'm naive. Perhaps I am. I just wanted to understand more. The next day, Sunday, December 10th, 2017. I wake up. First thing I did is check Twitter. It's all over Twitter. Is he going to go back to jail? People are tweeting. It was crazy. A slew of news outlets had also picked up the story. It was gaining traction. And on Twitter, Popeye reacted harshly to any speculation that he'd be sent back to jail. Popeye's tweets over the next several days illustrate a man fighting to keep the appearance of a powerful warrior while being embattled by the reality of his actions. Some he lashes out, while others he appears to divert attention. Nonetheless, this was a side to the man not portrayed during our interview. I'm going to read some of his tweets from Sunday, December 10th, 2017. 10:59 a.m. Hi, I'm here. They're miserable rats that are talking about what is not. Speaking without knowing what happened is very easy. That's from the rats of yes. Party hat emoji. I was at a party, and what happened, happened. It's not a crime to go to a party. That's why they released me. When Popeye says the rats of yes, he's referring to Colombians in favor of the 2017 peace accord with the FARC guerrillas. Popeye frequently rants about his disapproval over the peace process. 11:24 a.m. The prosecution asked the judge to decide. There is nothing here. The law is the law, and I know her. God bless you, warrior. 12:14 p.m. It was a police operation. They treated me with respect, the same as women and children and the pets. There were families there. It was a birthday party in a hotel. I was at the hotel in the wrong place. 12:17 p.m. I'm not afraid of yes rats. If I have to go to prison, I'll go. In a short time, I will be attacking this damn government again. I do not fear jail or death. I am a warrior, and as such I behave. I am a public figure, and I can go anywhere. 2:27 p.m. Popeye has to be sacrificed because he was in a hotel, at a party, and there were people outside the law, and those of the FARC are applauded in Congress and by President Juan Manuel Santos, and all the crap of yes. 2:41 p.m. I forgot. Prosecutor's office forget about me for all the cases of the Medellin cartel. Look for someone else to help you out here. I'm not doing it anymore. See ya. Time unknown. This became a media circus. They're happy to see me behind bars. But the real bandit is a presidential candidate. Monday, December 11th, 2017. I woke up and once again grabbed my phone and immediately started looking through Twitter. The first thing I saw was something I thought was very serious. the Colombian prosecutor had filed a request to revoke Popeye's freedom. Prior to this, there had been newspapers speculating and people and Twitter and the whole blogosphere. But this was an actual body of the Colombian government that had filed a request to revoke his freedom. I was quite shocked. Well, I was shocked and I wasn't shocked, to be completely candid. The prosecutor's request stated, "It's noteworthy that within the group of individuals was the well-known convicted criminal from the Medellin cartel, John Jairo Velázquez Vázquez, better known as Popeye, who is free under a conditional release, was in breach of his parole, as part of a group of people captured, some in flagrant violation of laws for carrying firearms and narcotics." For the office of the prosecutor, it's clear that Popeye breached the terms of his conditional release that he got back in 2014. His Twitter feed then has a slight shift to it, addressing what happened and trying to deflect. Monday, December 11th, 2017. Popeye's first tweet of the morning. "Many are outraged because they saw me at a party with Tom. I hope they feel the same the day they see Timochenko sitting in Congress." The man Popeye refers to as Timochenko is Timoleon Jimenez, one of the supreme commanders of the FARC. Popeye puts up another tweet saying, "What do you want for Popeye?" featuring a Twitter poll in his tweet, giving users the ability to vote on what they preferred for his future. It had three choices: remain free, go to prison, or to be dead. I don't think the results were what Popeye had hoped for. Only 1/3 had chosen the option of freedom and happiness, and almost 50% picked jail among more than 10,000 participants. Popeye then responded to the people who used his Twitter poll with a picture of him behind bars, and it said, "Many people want to see me behind bars again. And I'll just tell you one thing. I'm not scared because I didn't do anything, and for that reason, I'm not worried." The following day, Tuesday, December 12th, 2017, he had two more tweets that day. The first, "The corrupt politicians put up a smokescreen with my case in order to focus on Popeye. The real problem is the corruption and handing this country over to the FARC." Tuesday, December 12th, 2017. Popeye goes to a party and Colombia freaks out. The media are experts at distracting from the reality of the country. You need to understand, I'm not the problem in this country. The problem is in the presidential palace, and nobody says anything about it. And the second one, "My environment is what I live through. The Attorney General doesn't invite me to a party. These are my friends I made in prison, the ones who invited me. They were loyal to me in prison. Mr. Tom, I don't know him. This was a public place." On Thursday, December 14th, amongst a flurry of tweets about his presence at the birthday party of alias Tom, Popeye sends out another tweet that seems to surprise everyone. It feels like it's coming out of left field. "Last minute news. The daughter of Roberto Escobar Gaviria, Laura Isabel Escobar Urquillo, was detained in Mexico 2 days ago. It's not known why. Roberto's dog was happy for my mess. Now his daughter is imprisoned." The following day, December 15th, 2017, the Colombian National Police released the audio of Popeye's interrogation. It was conducted immediately following the raid on alias Tom's birthday party.
¿Qué se está dedicando? Señor, yo soy escritor, documentalista y youtuber.
What do you do now? Sir, I'm a writer, documentarian, and YouTuber.
Señor, estoy acá de un amigo y estamos en la Marmela que vamos a filmar algo ahí. Ve a unos libritos allá, señor.
Are you here visiting? Sir? Are you here? I'm here at my friend's. We were at the Manuela's because we were going to shoot something there, and we were going to bring some books over there, sir. And you ended up here? That's right. I went to that house, and because it was during festivities, they didn't open the door. The guys who brought me from La Manuela left me there. A guy on a motorcycle arrived, and I asked him to take me to a hotel. And he brought me here. I don't even drink alcohol, sir. With respect, sir, I'm rehabilitated and I have re-entered society.
That's Popeye in damage control mode, regardless of his far-fetched story to the police. Sunday, December 17th, 2017, 10:38 a.m. I remind you of something. Caracol TV was the one that made me famous, buying my rights for a TV series. The same ones that today want me to go back to jail. # double standard. The popular newspaper, El Espectador, publishes their Sunday edition. Now, inside of it was an article with the headline that read, "The Alleged Links of Popeye with the Office of Envigado." The article quotes Claudia Carrasquilla, the chief prosecutor for organized crime in Colombia. "We have been able to show that he has continued to meet with the different armed actors in this city." Wednesday, December 20th, 2017. The newspaper El Espectador publishes an article with the headline, "Escobar's niece calls Popeye a liar," in response to Popeye's tweet from 7 days earlier about her alleged detainment in Mexico. Pablo's niece and the daughter of Roberto Escobar, Laura Escobar Urquillo, is quoted in the article calling Popeye a liar and trickster. "Everything he got thanks to my uncle." Also quoted in the article is her father, Roberto Escobar. "The truth is that it's a pity that people fall so low to get a small income. There's no basis to anything he says. He was just a driver who was never Pablo's right hand." In the midst of all of this, another event happened that's significant here. 2 days later, on Friday, December 29th, a photo posted online begins to go viral throughout Medellin. It was taken in the area of Comuna 13. The photo shows a woman smiling and posing for a picture with Popeye, while another woman takes their picture as a third woman looks on happily. What is surprising is that all three women in the photo are wearing vests which identify them as employees or contractors working for the mayor of Medellin's office. The photo circulated widely over Instagram and Twitter, and it received a lot of comments, mostly angry. Within a matter of hours, the mayor of Medellin, Federico Gutierrez, took to Twitter, and he was angry. Total rejection of this behavior on the part of these city contractors. Zero tolerance with this. We are engaged in an ethical struggle against those that represent and have represented illegality. It's an offense to the victims. No more symbols of illegality. My instruction has been clear. Finally, the last of these events, which relates to everything we've been talking about, occurred almost a month and a half later, on Wednesday, January 23rd, 2018. Several Colombian news outlets report the death of a man named Luis Fernando Castaño Azate, alias Botija. Back in 2009, Castaño Azate was arrested on smuggling charges and then extradited to the U.S. the following year. The U.S. Middle District Court of Florida put him on trial for drug trafficking. During his trial, the prosecutor accused him of being the financial head of La Oficina and served as a liaison to Mexican cartels. He was convicted and sentenced to 10 years. Shortly after going to jail, Castaño Azate became a witness for the Justice Department in their prosecution of several extradited high-level traffickers and paramilitary leaders from Colombia. For his cooperation, he received a sentence reduction. In 2016, after serving only 6 years, Castaño Azate was released and returned to Medellin. Back in Colombia, he remained low-key, off the radar of the authorities. That was until a month and a half earlier, when he was on hand to celebrate Alias Tom's birthday in El Peñol, the same party with Popeye in attendance, the party which set everything in motion. And just like Popeye, Castaño Azate was detained by police that night, but later released. The following month, on the evening of January 22nd, 2018, Castaño Azate was shot and killed by motorcycle assassins while driving to his home in El Poblado. The murder of Luis Castaño Azate made it clear to Colombian authorities Alias Tom's arrest and pending extradition had left a vacuum at the top of the organization. A power struggle for control of La Oficina de Envigado had begun. Whether by coincidence or intention, Popeye's presence at Alias Tom's birthday party gave a glimpse into another side of the man we weren't hearing about. This was something I wanted to follow. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe, rate, and review. Seriously, it helps. I hate bothering everybody for this, but I gotta do it. Please visit our website for a full list of credits and some cool bonus materials, like photos, videos, and declassified documents at thesicarioeffect.com. If you're not sure how to spell it, it's the name of the podcast. Or you can follow us on Instagram at The Sicario Effect, or on Twitter at Sicario Effect. There is no "the" in the handle. And on Facebook at Exclave Media. I'm Jonathan Branstein, your host and writer. The show is produced by me, Caitlin Tyrrell, Ernie Hurtado, and Matt Olson. Our editor is William Broughton. Our engineer, sound design, and mix, Ernie Hurtado. Co-producer, Esteban Orozco. Music composed by Preston Nowakowski. Artwork, Juan Felipe Orozco. Additional music is composed by William Broughton. Interview translator, Alejandro Caseño. Additional translation, Juliet Restrepo, Cristina Madrid. Production support was provided by Daniel Uria. Special thanks to Laura Kate Jones, Mauricio Builes, Alejandro Brugas, Alejandro Doring, Alexandra Doring, Tim Fufus, Tom Freston, Ross Bernard, Kelvin Wells II, Saad Moseni, Yoshi Obayashi, Jeff Frankel, Stephen Molina, and the fabulous Los Hermanos Orozco. Additional thanks to the Museo Casa de la Memoria in Medellin, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library, the George Bush Presidential Library and Museum, Michael Pinckney, Mary Finch, Iafit Medellin, Luisa Garces. Also, please visit the Narco Tour project at narcotour.co. That's narcotour.co. This podcast is dedicated to the memory of Guillermo Cano, Anthony Bourdain, and Larry Bresner.